We are ready to board the ferry that will take us to Macau, which is about 70 kilometers southwest of Hong Kong. Macau can also be reached by bus and plane and even helicopter, although the latter is reserved for those who can afford the €500 cost of the journey. I like the ferry as a way to travel. It is quite comfortable and even relaxing. There are different ferry companies that operate this route daily from early in the morning until almost midnight. You can find a ferry almost every 15 minutes and for a cost starting from about €15 per trip. The journey takes approximately 1 hour and the boats usually have Wi-Fi. Keep in mind that the telephone network is different in Macau, so the line you have in Hong Kong will not have a signal in Macau. However, you will find good Wi-Fi in all hotels in the city. Another thing to keep in mind is that Macau has its own official currency, the baht, although it is not necessary to exchange currency as all establishments accept Hong Kong dollars. It is important to pay attention when they give you change to make sure it is in Hong Kong dollars as well. Upon arriving in Macau, you must have your passport ready and have filled out a form with your information, as they will ask for them when going through customs. This form is the same one they give you when entering Hong Kong. The process is quite simple and fast. You just need to have these two things ready. Getting around Macau is quite simple and easy. Most hotels provide free shuttle buses that run from the port and make several stops, with a frequency of between 10 and 20 minutes. Macau is known as the Las Vegas of China, as it is the only city in the entire country where gambling is allowed, and you can legally gamble money on games of chance, and casinos are legal. Currently, almost 90% of tourists who come to Macau come from other regions of China, including Hong Kong, with gambling being the main reason for their visit in the vast majority of cases. Thanks to the casinos, Macau has one of the highest GDP per capita in the world, on par with Luxembourg or Qatar. The large gambling casinos and their hotels have already surpassed Las Vegas itself in revenue. We are not going to stop in the Taipa area where all the hotels are, but we are going directly to the city, which is connected by a large bridge to it and stroll through its streets. Walking through Macau, there will be moments when you want to know if you are in Portugal or China. The oldest part of the city still preserves its whitewashed houses, courtyards with tiles like in Lisbon, and the vast majority of its signs are also written in Portuguese. It is a contrast that you do not expect to find in any Chinese city. I haven't shown you this before. The custom in restaurants is to clean the utensils you are going to eat with. They leave you a teapot with hot water and a bowl to pour the used water once you have rinsed your utensils. These fried baozi filled with meat and vegetables were really delicious. The clay pots of toasted rice with meat and vegetables are a simple recipe but very tasty. Definitely, we had a pleasant meal at this restaurant. After a good meal, we are going to walk through the historic center of Macau, which is classified as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. If we look back to learn a little about the history of Macau, we find that it holds the title of being the first and last European colony in Asia, as it was returned to China in December 1999, 2 years after Hong Kong, and after 422 years of Portuguese rule. Fishermen from Fujian and farmers from Guangdong were the first known settlers of Macau. During ancient times, the port city was a part of the Silk Road, and ships loaded silk there for Rome. In the early 1550s, the Portuguese arrived, and with the permission of the inhabitants, established a city that quickly became an important center of trade between China, Japan, India, and Europe, incorporating it into their trade route with the Far East, which already included their colonies in India and Malaysia. Many years later, around 1887, and after several treaties, Macau went from being a simple leased settlement to an official colony of Portugal, although its position as a strategic Portuguese base in the east was already in decline, culminating in the positioning of Hong Kong as a key port for trade. Seeing how its neighbor was taking over its position in both the commercial and tourism sectors, in 1850 Portugal decided to legalize gambling in Macau, naming it as a permanent region of the gambling industry in 1961. At the time of returning the colony, thanks to Portugal's willingness in the negotiations, China yielded to some of its demands. On the one hand, the inhabitants of Macau could keep their two nationalities, Chinese and Portuguese. This grants Macanese people the right to live and work permanently in Portugal, also being considered citizens of the European Union. However, in 1981, Macanese people can only access Portuguese nationality if one of their parents also had it. This is quite unusual in China, as it does not usually allow its citizens to have dual nationality. On the other hand, Portuguese is recognized as a co-official language along with Mandarin, and it is mandatory to respect the traditions of Portuguese origin of the descendants of the union between Portuguese and Chinese. One of the most recognized icons in Macau is the facade of St. Paul's Church and its staircase. Currently, only the facade, the crypt, and some ruins remain of the church, which can be visited along with the small museum they have built. This church was built in 1602 by exiled Japanese Christians and Chinese artisans under the Jesuit order. At that time, it was one of the largest Christian churches in all of Asia. It was a fire during a typhoon that completely destroyed it in 1835, leaving its facade intact. From the top of the staircase, we have a beautiful view of historic buildings, apartment blocks built in the 1980s, and modern skyscrapers in the background. From there, we continue climbing the hill and reach the Monte Fort, which historically was responsible for defending the city. And from the top of the fortress, we have magnificent panoramic views of the entire city. It was built by the Jesuits and was equipped with 32 cannons, military barracks, watchtowers, walls, and an arsenal that contained enough ammunition and supplies to withstand a 2-year siege. None of the weapons point towards the main line, so it is understood that it was built to defend against maritime attacks. The only military action that took place from the fortress was during a failed Dutch incursion in 1622. In 1976, the fortress was demilitarized, and in 1998, the Macau Museum was installed there. Before leaving the historic center of Macau, we stroll through a neighborhood that still preserves its traditional streets, houses, and small businesses, mostly restaurants offering both Chinese food and some of the most well-known Portuguese dishes. We take the opportunity to buy some typical Macau sweets and pastries to take back as souvenirs for family and friends at one of the most popular shops in the area. We leave Macau behind to cross the bridge again to reach Taipa Island, where all the hotels and casinos that have made Macau so famous and renowned are located. As I mentioned before, it is only Macau where casinos are legalized, and that is why they attract a large number of tourists whose main motivation is gambling. Not without reason, Macau's economy depends on gambling for more than 70%. For almost 20 years, Macau has surpassed Las Vegas in revenue. The key seems to lie in demographics, as Macau benefits from its proximity to a much larger population. walk along the main avenue is quite pleasant, although if you don't want to go outside, most of the hotels are connected to each other by tunnels or bridges. One of the most well-known hotels is the Venetian Macau, which inside is like being in the canals of Venice. It is the largest Venetian in the world and has 3,000 rooms. Today we are going to briefly visit the Londoner Hotel, which opened last year and transports you to the City of London. Its construction involved an investment of $2 billion. It is almost like being in London, with Big Ben, the Parliament, St. Pancras, and you can even take a picture with David Beckham inside a black cab. Speaking of Beckham, he is the hotel's ambassador, and in fact has invested in and designed 14 luxury suites on the upper floors of the building. This hotel has 6,000 rooms, more than 20 restaurants, around 150 shops, some of them high-end luxury, and 34,000 square meters dedicated to events and conventions, such as the Londoner Theatre with a capacity for 1,700 people. On this occasion, our visit today is just for the day and we return to Hong Kong at night. However, if you have time, I recommend spending the night in one of its hotels and exploring the entire area, visiting the hotels, their shops, restaurants, and even if you're feeling lucky, trying your luck at one of their casinos. It will be an experience that you will surely remember.
嘅目的地為氹仔碼頭，歡迎乘坐金光穿梭巴士。本車的目的地